Is it? All right. Thank you all for joining us this week. This week's Tipple's virtual wine tasting with Elizabeth Beaudre, coming to you from Tipple's Brews and Wines in Gainesville, Florida. Well, not exactly from Tipple's itself, but you know what?
Right.
We needed a quiet room. All right. This week, we will be enjoying a Super Tuscan, which we will talk about what that means. It's a red blend from Italy, from Tuscany, by Tenuta della Luce,
Okay.
the Lucente Super Tuscan. So if you have not already done so, and I think you would be silly not to, pop that bottle open and let's pour ourselves.
How long has ours been
Glass.
open?
Ours has only been open about 7 minutes,
Okay,
which is okay.
it's okay. All right.
Give it a really big hearty splash as I pour and a swirl. It'll aerate in Newtown. Let's go ahead while that takes a minute to breathe.
Okay.
I'll go over.
First, I think we should pick the dog bowl up because he's licking the empty bowl and making a lot of noise.
Oh, he's done. Okay.
All right, well, we'll see. If he starts banging again, see?
No, okay. He's gonna be all sad. Hi, buddy. You're a good boy. All right.
Licking the empty bowl, hoping there's more coming.
That's right.
Yep. All right.
All right.
So you want me to share?
To the slides,
All right.
please. All right, so the Luce della Vite Lucente Super Tuscan from Italy. Some nice ratings, and it gets nice ratings every year. So James Suckling 93, Robert Parker 92. Food pairings. Hey, look,
Is it hard to say Parker and still Palmer? Because when I, as soon as you started that, I was like, no, it's Robert Palmer.
Yeah.
It's
though I would say this wine is simply irresistible.
okay.
Yes, you're
You're
welcome.
just, you
You
guys
only
are
have yourself to
lucky
blame.
he didn't break into song
That's right.
because
You only have yourself to blame.
Mhm.
All right. Oh, by the way, did you see that I noted what you and Robin said, and I fixed the accented E on pate?
Oh, you did.
Yes.
Awesome.
Ah,
Okay.
he can be taught.
Eh.
Occasionally something gets through. All right. That's how it works, ladies and gentlemen. So pate and pecorino, so sheep's milk cheese, polenta and wild mushrooms with thyme, or ossobuco alla milanese, right? So this is great with a lot of hearty, savory dishes, right?
Okay.
So I like to get fun and jump in with something that maybe is a little regionally specific, but the bottom line is a steak, a burger, all these things are all
Okay,
going to work.
that's what I was just gonna ask. So
Yeah.
you could just do like we say with most reds, almost any kind of steak.
Almost any
Yeah.
kind of steak will work. And actually, the one I like to go with, any kind of like a meat sauced
Like
Italian.
okay, meat sauced Italian.
Yeah.
Okay, because I was thinking, when I was looking at the wild mushrooms, I was thinking like a hunter sauce, something like
That'll work
venison
too.
with hunter sauce.
Yeah, there's no reason that wouldn't work. But
Okay.
this is this crossing of styles, which we'll talk about,
Okay.
which is New World meets Old World. So it really does open up the options.
So the zucchini lasagna that I made last week, would
Mhm.
that have worked with this then?
Yes.
Okay, because of the meat sauce.
Right.
Okay,
Mhm.
all right.
Yeah, and it looks like we have a chat already.
We
And it's
do.
Time to
Oh, cherry and floral, and
Yeah.
then Monty.
Monty.
Yep.
Good boy. Hey, buddy.
Okay, let me stop the share a moment.
Hmm. Nice call on that. Okay, so let's jump into, but we're getting some already. This guy is, varietal content on this is a blend of Merlot and Sangiovese. So the percentages can change year to year, but we're talking about usually right around 75% Merlot,
Okay.
25% Sangiovese.
Mhm.
Sangiovese being the dominant red grape for Tuscany, Italy.
Okay,
Right.
so super Tuscans are usually 75% Merlot, 25%.
No,
No.
Good question. All right, so, and we'll talk about what a Super Tuscan is in detail, but a Super Tuscan is going to be a blend that includes Sangiovese always.
Okay,
All right, so
right.
because Sangiovese is the red grape of the Tuscan area.
okay,
All right, then they're going to blend in some French varietal, and it can be all kinds of percentages. It is not dictated. So, and we'll get into it a little bit more. So in this case, we're talking about French varietal dominant. They're not even always dominated by the French varietal.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes Sangi is the dominant one.
So Super Tuscans have a wide range of flavors, and I don't mean
Yes.
flavors that are blended in. I mean, like one Super Tuscan to another Super Tuscan can be very, very
Very,
different.
very different.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yes, exactly. It's a big variety of options just within Tuscan.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
it's an interesting style for that reason.
Chris is saying he's really tasting the Sangiovese.
Mm. So, but I do like that, the early cherry and floral, absolutely. Nice black cherry floral. A nice spice, maybe a little anise going on in there. But there's an undercurrent. I could almost go a little chocolatiness, and this is just on the nose so far.
I'm really getting the floral on the nose.
Mhm.
And this is an interesting comment because I was going to say it reminds me almost of like a spiced cherry liqueur or something else like that. And then when I realized what I was thinking of, I was thinking of those like cocktails that would use that, and I was like, well, no, I'm thinking of stuff like Fernet and other things that use that. And I'm like, well, that's starting. Yeah, that's starting. So like that's all wrapped up in the same like kind of flavor profile. But there's like a good like spiciness, woodiness, cherryness to it, you know.
Yeah, definitely. And I like the woody comment because I would go cedar specifically because of that spice. And on the fruit, it's kind of a fun combination where you're getting kind of a really nice dark cherry, but you're also getting a red plum, right? So, and the plum is going to come from the Merlot.
So do all Super Tuscans have a dark cherry note to it then, if that's coming from the Sangiovese and it's always in?
It's
Super
very
Tuscan?
common. Yeah.
Okay.
So that is going to be one of the only, you get like a dark fruity note is very common. And it's not just the Sangiovese. It's like the blend seems to kind of bring out the big fruit. And I think it's more the region
Okay,
in all of the different grapes that they might use.
Oh,
And
okay.
we'll talk about those different grapes.
okay. But this isn't from the Tuscany region.
This is from the Tuscany region.
That's right. Last week you had it written from Lodi, so that was still in my head.
Oh,
But
right. Yeah,
yes,
no, you're the
this-
second person that said that. I really
Really?
messed it up.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
That sunk into my head last week. No, this
That happened
is
at the store too.
Tuscany.
Right.
Okay.
This is from Tuscany.
See, you mess with everyone.
Everyone really pays attention to the slides. All right.
I didn't pay attention to the first one, evidently, only the last one. last week.
So alcohol content on this guy, 14.5%.
Okay.
All right, so good, upper end, but not crazy.
Mhm.
And aging potential on this. Ready for young consumption. I think that's obvious because it's already given. We're not drinking this saying.
Since 2018.
Yeah. Anyway, so aging potential on this guy is ready for young consumption, but can age up to 10 years
Oh,
easily,
okay.
right? Now, there's a big brother to this guy. So the Luce, so it's the wine for the
Okay.
vineyard. And it jumps from this guy around 30-ish, right, to 130.
Okay,
So there's no subtle steps.
That is
See,
their
You got this
signature
guy
wine.
and then you got that guy. My signature wine.
exactly.
Which is obviously it's exceptional, but this guy is fantastic and a great way to kind of get in there and decide if you want to make that jump up there for a special occasion or something to, to try the full Luce, which has been out of stock for a long time, but it should be back.
Okay. So, and then we have some more comments about, so I'm thinking just Kiwi wrote this. I'm not sure who, okay. Kiwi wrote initially sharp, but it's warming up.
So,
Yeah.
and I like that calm, and I'll
Mhm.
jump in real quick on that because of the acid.
Okay.
All right, so Sangiovese is a high acid red.
Mhm.
That's one of the things that allows them to age well. And that's one of the things that makes it fun with Super Tuscans is because they add this ageability and a freshness, and they add a sense of Italian
Okay.
to the wine.
Mhm.
So it's not just, oh, well, this is so good, it could have been made in France. No, they have a distinct flavor of their own
Okay.
that has that because of the Sangiovese. It makes it Italian.
So even with a different blend of Super Tuscan, if you were blindfolded,
Yeah.
you could tell
Usually.
it's
yes.
because of the specific taste of the region.
And the way that they vent them.
Okay.
So you get like, for example, let's talk, we're going there. So let's talk a little bit about the tannins, right?
Mhm.
So the tannins in this guy, they're really nice tannins. They are not overly aggressive, but they are fine but firm,
Okay.
right? So they're not big, long prickles. It's more of almost a powdery tightness across the palate,
Mhm.
right? That is a signature style of Italian tannin,
Okay.
right? They
Mhm.
tend to be small in size,
Mhm.
not every time, but really by and large,
Mhm.
small, powdery, but
Mhm.
firm, and they let you know they're there.
Yeah, because I'm not getting like sharpness at all. I'm not getting
Mm.
prickles, but I'm definitely getting like the
Mm.
grip of the tannins.
Now, if you were drinking straight Sangiovese
Mhm.
at this quality level,
Mhm.
you'd be getting a lot of firmness and a lot of tartness, and you would be thinking, I don't want to drink this without food.
Okay.
It's the
Well,
Merlot that
I might
tames it.
think that I would be fine without food since I like tart,
Yeah,
but
well, that's true.
but most
Right.
people.
So this would be what I would call, there are significant tannins here,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
But they're not rough. They're not overly aggressive. They're really pretty mellow. So for their firmness, they're still gentle. So I would call it velvety tannin.
Sure. And I just want to catch up with the chat a little bit.
Okay.
So Robin agreed that it was a little tight at the start, but it's opening up nicely.
Mhm.
And then I'm not sure if it's Linda or Paul. I'm guessing it's probably Linda. Feels like there's something herbal, but can't pick it out exactly,
Mhm.
which is, I think, kind of what Chris said before,
Mhm.
that kind of herbiness. And then fine but firm, and then bubbles and kiwi. I like these tannins
Excellent.
and as it opens.
Right.
So
And it will open. This guy, this is definitely something that will evolve as we're talking. So, I say sometimes ready to go. This one is ready to go or age. It's also one that you can drink right away and will open.
okay.
It's a great versatility in these
Mhm.
wines, which is why I can totally understand, and hopefully you guys will agree, why this style has taken the country by storm internationally with popularity. Italy being the country.
Okay,
Yeah.
because I was like,
As far as
taking
their
the country
production.
by storm internationally. I was like,
Yeah, so Italian production being very much internationally embraced very quickly.
okay,
Because they've not been making these for that long
Mhm.
compared to their long wine growing
Right.
history in
Sure.
Italy. So they really only began doing this in the 80s. So mostly in the
that's
90s.
getting farther and farther away.
Yeah,
you know?
well, that's true. Sadly. So I like those calls, a nice herbiness, absolutely, that's gonna come from the Sangiovese.
Mhm.
And leatheriness, I could go with some leather, especially on the palate. Really chew the wine for a moment, and you get kind of a leather finish. That's going to be from the Sangiovese as well, though it won't be hindered from the Merlot. So. All right.
So it's not mellowed out by the Merlot, is what you're saying, like that.
Well, the Merlot can add a little leatheriness on its
Okay,
own.
so it's
yeah,
be enhancing the
Right.
leather.
Mhm.
Okay,
But I'd say most of it would be Sangiovese.
okay.
Mhm.
You would like for me to
Nice
share?
long finish, nice tartness that hangs out.
Mhm.
It definitely has acid. This guy, like I said, it can age.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Julie's gonna be sad. She wasn't here tonight. Oh, but she has the wine, so,
No, that's true. She
yes,
does.
okay.
All right, so next slide, please. All right, wine label review. So if you are in a wine store that is not Tipple's, and so you're getting no help and you're walking around, what would I do if I'm just walking into a store? So I look at this, so Vite, Lucente, so we got there, so we can see that Tenuta Luce is the name of the winemaker, right? Tenuta Luce, Toscana, so Tuscany.
Mhm.
And then I say Lucente, it's got a name that means something in
Okay.
Italian wines, right? So we'll talk
Oh,
about
okay.
that. So
Specifically in Italian wines.
specifically, here's
Okay.
why, right? So in Italy,
Mhm.
like in France,
Mhm.
they name their wines after their location, right?
Okay.
So normally, this is in Tuscany,
Mhm.
right? You would see Tenuta Luce, Toscana, all right, it's a Tuscan, and then it would say Chianti,
Oh,
right? Because
okay.
it's the Chianti region, or
Okay.
Montepulciano.
Okay,
These are the sub-regions within Tuscany
okay,
that it would be named after one of the sub-regions.
okay,
Maybe Chianti Classico, the highest level of Chianti and that kind of a
right.
thing. So, but this has a name. That is a super Tuscan change.
Oh, all Super
So-
Tuscans have names.
Super Tuscans tend to have names.
Okay,
They may see, occasionally, if you get a less expensive one, it may say Toscana Rosso,
okay,
but just a Tuscan red is probably going to be a Super Tuscan as well.
okay.
Right.
But it doesn't say Super Tuscan on here anywhere.
It's not going to say that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a nickname for the style.
Oh, all
So
right.
Super Tuscan is the name, but it is not label utilized.
So if I'm looking specifically for a Super Tuscan and I have no help in a wine store
Right.
and somehow I have no Wi-Fi, so I can't take pictures and send it to you and ask what to do. What I'm looking for is that it says Toscana
Right.
and that it has a name
Right.
that is not a region.
That's right. That will
That
almost
will
certainly
certainly
be
be a Super
a Super
Tuscan.
Tuscan.
Okay,
It is.
even though not all Super Tuscans have their own names, but almost all.
Almost every single one
Okay.
will say, it'll be named after grandma or or the mountain nearby or something, Isabella's love, it'll be all these things. So they tend to give them names,
Okay, no, I love that.
which is fun. So because they broke the rules, which we'll go into a little bit more, they broke the rules to make these wines and they kind of break the rules in the label.
Okay.
So
So is this the only, I don't know, is this the only style of wine in Italy that is a modern style? Everything else is kind of, we've been doing this for hundreds of years like this.
it is by far the dominant version of
Okay.
that happening.
Okay,
And we'll talk about it's later on.
Okay.
What they started in Tuscany
Uh-huh.
is spreading throughout Italy
Okay.
and modernizing a lot of what they're doing in
Oh,
different regions, right? So we look in the back, we've got Vite, Lucente, so there's a name again,
mhm,
Toscana. So here's the IGT, right? Indicazione graffati. Well, it's the Geographica Tipica, right?
okay,
So indication of typical geography for this area.
sure.
That was created, that IGT designation, rather than DOC, denominazione, so those were the ones, DOC and DOCG, which throws the guarantee of quality, were the original version. So when you had Chianti Classico, and all those types of things, they created this because this was in the same region as they were growing Chianti,
Mhm.
but they had no way to designate it. And really, it was kind of against the rules. So they didn't know what to do with it. They fought, it took them 20 years
Wow,
from the first Super Tuscan that was made until they finally designated the IGT, which applies to the entire country, not just Tuscany,
okay,
which is why different winemakers throughout the country now are using this as a way to have a designation of quality
mhm,
for their wine, but going outside the boundaries of traditional rules.
okay. So when was it finally approved?
1992.
Oh,
And the
okay.
first one was made in.
Robin still wasn't born, but.
There we go. So they call it just a red wine, right? Select grapes, they give you a little bit about it. I mean, pretty much waxing poetic about their stuff. So you get in here. So mostly what you would pick up from this is, okay, here's a guy, it's a Tuscan red is all you can really know.
Right,
So if it would take you knowing a little bit more to know that Super Tuscans exist, and to know that for an American palate, Super Tuscan is going to be your guy to start with in Italy, in my opinion,
sure,
because you're dealing with some of the varietals that you're used to.
okay,
And we'll talk about it, but Cabernet Sauvignon is very common. Cabernet Merlot, Syrah,
and a Super Tuscan,
in a Super
not
Tuscan.
in this one.
Not in this one. This
Yeah.
one happens to just be.
Okay, we have a chat, so let's see. When you say old, do you mean old world versus new world? Yes.
Yes.
Mhm,
Mhm.
mhm.
Absolutely. So, all right. So once again, this guy could use some help when you're walking around, if you're walking around a wine
The
store,
bottle.
if you're there and you don't know the other thing about Super Tuscans,
Mhm,
it's going to be hard to know, oh, this guy will apply to me. I want a nice red blend to,
okay,
but knowing a little bit more can really open up your eyes to, okay, here are these guys that if I'm going to just grab one, I'm grabbing a red blend that is most likely going to make me happy.
mhm.
Unless you're going for a Chianti, then you want something else, but anyway.
But that would say Chianti on it,
It would
right?
very much say Chianti all over it.
All right. Would you like me to advance the slide?
Yes, please, sorry, and give me a moment. Gotta
Okay.
enjoy this, is beautiful. That floor side is really something. All right, so this guy, when we go in there, we got done with the aging potential, right? This is aged in a combination of new and old oak barriques. So
Okay.
what is a barrique, right?
Yeah.
We've talked about it before, but it's worth covering again.
We've
If-
talked,
We have. We used a different picture before.
was I here?
Yes. So a barrique is just an extra large barrel.
Okay.
Right, and so there are barriques versus barrel size, right? So I thought this was a good one because it actually shows definitively the difference in size between a barrique and a barrel.
Yeah.
So is there a reason for that? Do they just want to do less barrels? What's going on?
Okay, do you want less influence from the oak? Because, okay,
Yes.
yes, cool.
Exactly.
All right,
That's exactly why. You want to give some oak treatment to the
Mhm.
wine, but you want a little less oak influence. You want more of the grape coming through. So it helps neutralize some of the strong effect, even if you're using some new. And this is a combination of new and older oak. So they didn't want it to overwhelm the
Okay.
wine.
this is gonna be a really dumb question.
No, you just nailed that.
Well, yeah, but you haven't heard the next question. So to me, like if I'm sitting here aging it, I would want to, like, I'm thinking it should be rotated or it should be like mixed in some way to make sure that other like parts of it hit the sides and it's not just sitting there stagnant. Do they do anything to make it, or it's just,
No, they do that sometimes,
Oh, okay.
depending on the winemaker, right?
okay?
But many do. So they go into the top
Mhm.
and you see the green
Oh,
thing
yes,
on top?
okay.
So that's the bung. And they pull that out
Mhm.
and they can put in basically at this point, a drill with a stirring rod on it.
Oh, okay,
And they just stir the whole,
all right.
if they choose to. They don't all, but many do. Mhm.
All right. Oh, it's funny. The Snyders asked the exact same thing. Are those
Listen.
barrels rotated?
Right. Yeah, they usually just stir up the wine within the barrel, even on
Okay.
barrel size.
Okay,
Because you can see, like, you see on the barrel that we
Mhm.
see right next to it, the white thing on there, that's the bung on the barrel.
oh, the little one.
Yeah,
Yes.
on the
Oh,
little one, you can see the
barrel.
bung as well.
That's the green.
Right.
Okay,
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah, so that's where you're filling it. That's where you're, if you're going to use a wine thief to pull a little bit out safely
Mhm.
and taste to see how things are going, that's all done through the bung.
The wine thief is like a turkey baster.
It's kind of like a turkey baster.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, there's some that are fancy and they've got like this little swoop thing going on and they're all glass, but turkey baster looks great.
Okay. Should I move on?
Please.
Okay. This is very pretty, by the way. Is this their place or this is just a representative?
This is representative.
Okay.
This is not their place. Their place is gorgeous.
Okay.
All right, so Super Tuscans, we'll get into a little bit, or I kept saying, we'll cover it more later. Anyway, so Super Tuscan as a style. It's a blend of traditional Tuscan indigenous grapes, in this case, for the red Sangiovese, with traditional indigenous French grapes. So Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, Syrah, Cabernet Franc are the most common ones.
Okay.
It wouldn't be the only thing. And it literally doesn't stop it from being other things as well.
Okay,
I mean,
well,
if they
that's what
wanted to,
I was gonna ask, because I'm looking at one Italian grape
right?
and then 4 French grapes. Are there other Italian grapes that get mixed in there too, or is it strictly, okay, we're gonna have Sangiovese with some kind of French grapes?
No, there are other Italian
Oh,
grapes
okay.
in other regions,
Okay, all
right?
right,
So we've talked about because I said because of the IGT being created and Super Tuscans doing well,
Mhm.
some of the regions are beginning to work with
Okay.
these grapes. One of my favorite regions is Veneto, right up
Mhm.
near Venice,
Mhm.
and I call them Super Venetians. And
Yeah.
we've had one with the group before.
okay,
Right, so they use their own grape up there, that, well, even a couple of different grapes that are normally used in things like, Amarone. And
Okay.
they'll take some of those individual grapes and
Mhm.
then blend them with Merlot or Syrah and that kind of a thing. Carmenere up there, they're using
Mhm.
Carmenere.
it just seems very confusing to me that like if I'm tasting it
Mhm.
and it can be so many different things. then how do you identify it as a super Tuscan?
Yeah, I get it, because if they're not gonna throw it on the label to say super, this has got
Right.
some blend. Because a lot of them basically would come across as Italian red blends.
Which I'm still going to love.
Right,
But-
so, but that would be kind of the default of what you would get to.
Okay,
Is from wherever it was from, it would be an Italian red blend.
okay.
And hopefully there would be some detail in there about, oh, this is blended with.
But I'm also thinking that, well, you already said, like, the flavors can vastly vary from one to another. because-
Vastly,
Yeah,
yeah, they
Okay.
can be very, very different. Yeah. So,
should I move on?
yes, please. All right, IGT, this is what we're talking about. So I kind of covered this already. IGT. That allowed foreign grape varieties to be used in Italy and to actually still get a label that wasn't just Italian table wine,
Mhm.
right? Before that, it was literally just no designation at all. And it was just, this could only be called, Italy. There you go. It's Italian wine.
If they added any foreign grapes.
If they added foreign grapes, because there was no designation that could, control it at all.
No, but that's very interesting because like they're growing those grapes in Italy, right?
Mhm.
They're not importing.
Oh, no,
any.
they're growing them. and
Okay,
they
so
grow
they're
well.
growing them, but even though they were grown in Italy,
Mhm.
they couldn't have like a nice designation because it was a French grape.
Right. Yeah, because they were saying like, but right now, for example, in Tuscany, it was all about Sangiovese. Different levels of Sangiovese
Right.
quality, right?
Okay.
So you had Chianti low level, Chianti Classico, Chianti, Brunello, which is the highest level of Chianti, which is also regional. Anyway, so yeah, they only had those in place. They weren't ready for this more innovative choice. And they really started working on it very quickly because they showed it was kind of a marriage made in heaven because it works incredibly well together.
Mhm.
And it makes really good wine. It wasn't just different wine, it's some of the, I might get a lot of trouble if I say what at the end.
Some of the ones that you like the
Some of the
most
ones
for
that I
the
really
American
enjoy, yeah,
palate.
it's really good for the American palate, right? So, the first Super Tuscan by Antinori Tinanello, right? Was 1971. So it wasn't until 92 that they even had a way to
Yeah,
designate.
20 years, that's
20 years.
a long time to go without
So
having
that
being able
one-
to designate it with a nice label.
And you see, like, when we talked about how there's so much flexibility, this guy's 75% Merlot, 25% Sangiovese.
Mhm.
That one's 80% Sangiovese, 50% Cab, 5% Cab Franc.
Yeah, very, very different tasting wine from what we're tasting.
Right, and it would be very different.
Mhm.
And that one, the original one, if you would like to explore it, I will help you. Yes, it is in
We can get
stock.
that?
Yes, I can get it.
Okay.
And yes, I checked the price and that's what I would sell. And so anyway, but that's what it's on, it's all over. So
Yeah.
that's a good general price. It's about that price. So, yeah. Which actually sounds like a lot of fun.
It does sound like a lot of fun. Should I move on?
So this is going into finding a Super Tuscan wine, right? How to identify. Once again, thank you, Wine Follow. You guys are awesome. Winery, wine name. They have a name, very common for Super Tuscans. Toscana, classification IGT. So it's almost like I paid attention. And the family name that's of the winery itself. Family name. Often, yeah, they do run like family name wineries. So they'll put the family name in addition to the winery name.
Okay,
They're usually the same. Sometimes they're two different
that's what I
names.
was gonna ask, but okay,
Mhm. Like in this case, the family name is not on here. It's all about the winery. So
okay,
that's because it started as a partnership,
okay.
which we will cover. All right. So actually I kind of covered that, but there it is. You see it for yourself there.
So all Super Tuscans have this IGT classification, or just the ones you want to drink have the IGT classification?
They should all have the IGT
Okay.
classification.
Okay,
Yeah, I don't see why they wouldn't. So if I'm wrong on that, I don't see why.
Okay.
Right? I'm open to being called on it, but no, it should have an IGT classification.
next.
Yes. All right, so grapes. In this case, we have a combination of Merlot having a very strong, kind of intense outer grape, and kind of minimal on the inside as far as not a lot of acid. The Merlots are not known for being tart.
Okay,
So they tend to be all about kind of a luscious fruity and character driven outside, nice sugar.
Outside meaning the
The
skin.
skin and
specifically.
the peripheral zone.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
Not a ton of tannin, some. So, and tannin, like I say, tannin is not dependent on thickness of skin. It often does go along with thickness of skin,
Mhm.
right? And so thicker skin Merlot tends to get more tannin.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be. The Sangiovese, which is the other part of what we're talking
Mhm.
about tonight, right? Sangiovese is not particularly thick-skinned either, but they tend to have a lot more tannin.
Okay.
But for Sangiovese, as they thicken the skin with better growth and
Mhm.
location, you get more tannin as well. So usually it goes hand in hand. It's mostly if you can thicken the skin, but it doesn't mean it's thick skinned. It can be thick skinned for that grape, but still be way thinner skinned than say a Petit Syrah.
Okay, so wait, so tannins
Mhm.
are not necessarily coming from thick-skinned grapes, is what you're saying.
Right.
However,
Mhm.
I want to go the reverse of this.
Right.
If I have a thick-skinned red grape,
Yes.
will it always have tannins? So it's the reverse. A
Right.
thin-skinned grape can give you tannins, so it doesn't have to be
Right.
thick-skinned, but are all thick-skinned grapes.
It's the 80-20 rule both ways. And I
Okay.
like that. So
Okay.
I like that you brought it around to that. So if a grape is thin skinned,
Mhm.
80% of the time, not a lot of tannins.
Okay.
20% of the time, they can have good
Okay.
tannin. It's just dependent on the grape, right?
Okay.
If it is a thick-skinned grape,
Mhm.
80% of the time, it will have really big tannins.
Okay,
20% of the time, there are some that still don't have those big tannins in there,
even though it has thick skin.
even though it has. a
That's
thick skin.
interesting. Okay,
Yeah, it's kind of an 80-20 both ways.
next.
Yes, please. But it is a thing, like you can say, you're walking around day to day, nobody's quizzing you. Usually, if it's thicker skinned, probably gonna have bigger tannin, right?
Okay.
If it's thinner skinned, like Pinot Noir,
Mhm.
probably usually has less tannin.
I
right?
think at the store, you should just start randomly quizzing most of the, the regular WOW group.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
right. Well, mostly Paul and Chris, just because it's more fun. All right, so where on earth are we?
There you go.
Thank you. So here we are in northwestern central Italy, right about in the dead center here, just right there. And then, so Italy, here is Tuscany, right here. That's Chianti and such. So they have, you can see the ridge. I love this topographical map. You can see, so they have a combination of oceanic influence
Mhm.
with breeze and elevation.
Okay,
So they've got intense sunlight. They go through times where they go through months without a lot of rain. So they get dryness, they get time to ripen without dilution on the vine. And yet they get cool, breezy evenings to cool that thing down and get them to take time to ripen and gain some character. Here we are, Tuscany a little closer up. I'm going to tell you, when it comes to Super Tuscans, one thing. So rather than being, say, oh, it's an IGT and it's all in Chianti, that can happen.
Mhm.
It can happen, right?
Okay.
Where what they're doing is, they're growing things like, or even, where's what I'm looking for here? So you can get something that would be all grown in Chianti, but it still has to be called an IGT. It can't be called like
because
a
of the
Chianti
French
red vine.
grapes.
Because of the French grapes. So it
Okay.
has to, and then there are some that source from throughout Tuscany. So you might get a little bit of growth, maybe Merlot from Montepulciano, blended with some Sangiovese from high quality Chianti, which makes sense, depending on what's growing well where. And then other ones are not sourcing from all those different locations and they're just sourced locally. And then these guys are actually all within the Chianti region.
Okay.
Mhm.
For this one.
For this one, happens to be within this one. This is a state road.
Okay.
Well, it doesn't say it, but let me tell you, everything I read indicated it. I don't know why they didn't.
Yeah. Huh.
So Tuscany. It looks lovely.
It does.
So let's see, Super. I already talked about the 80s and 90s, Super Tuscans. Yeah, and then they're used, I wanted to make sure I covered all my notes, like,
Sure.
and they are used in other areas now, like I said, super Venetians.
Yeah.
So Tuscany, north central Italy on the western coast, maritime influences and the Apennine mountain range. Warm days, cool breezy nights, Sangiovese by far the dominant. Chianti is what they're most well known for. Chianti, really a very usually can be a very tart red grape,
Mhm.
really good to go with food, right? So that
Okay.
acid plays with the, richness
Right.
of meats and sauces, and it works really well. Chianti, I find usually is not something that I want to drink without food. With food, I'm in. Without food, I can appreciate, right? Let's see, let's see here, innovative blends, and I talked about departure from tradition on the naming. So, okay, I think I covered it all.
Okay.
Cool. I covered it a little more organically. So, all right. So, and here's specifically within there, here's Chianti, within them. So,
So beautiful.
Yeah,
It looks like a postcard. Time and time
It does.
again, we say this about
Well,
vineyards,
about- yeah,
the
where-
regions where there are vineyards.
if you
but
can
yeah.
grow wine and grapes there, you probably want to live there. It's
Probably.
just the best place in the world. Well, except for Jamaica. I'm not going to Jamaica. I mean, I'll visit, but
Okay,
it's a desert.
the grapevines are struggling though, so,
Oh, they're struggling so
yeah.
hard. Yeah, they're there in Spanish.
Yeah, exactly.
A little water twice a year would be great. All right. So Luce welcomes you. All right, so Tenuta Luce Winery. Let me take a look at this before we even go in, because I love this. Like,
Mhm.
take a look at what we're looking at real quick.
Okay.
Because it could look confusing.
Yeah, it looks like they created a terrace on a sloping hill, so they
Yeah.
built the building like into the hill and then either added
Hmm.
the terra on top of
Right.
it, or like really just built it into it so it was underneath it.
Yeah, it's a subterranean winery.
Yeah, it's very cool.
I mean, if you were seeing it from the other side, you're just gonna see this great old Italian farmhouse
Right,
and
and this is
Mediterranean
phenomenal.
garden. And then down there you have this modern, it's like the Bond villain's lair. Winemaking. Ba-da, ba-da. Like,
Exactly.
I just think it's really cool.
That's like literally what I just said to her while I was like, this looks like a villain's lair.
Yeah.
Right?
Or compound or something like that.
Exactly. It's like, the whole part here, like, where you can see the industrial face there. If you
Right.
covered that up with some kind of like netting and you just retrieved it once in a while to go
Mhm.
in and out. It's
It
crazy.
can be completely hidden. Yeah.
And I just think, I really want to go there. Nope, excuse me. Nope.
What are you
And-
doing? This is
Here we
Jeff
go.
controlling the mouse. So
Yeah, here we go.
just-
So within the layer, right? So this is their tasting room and they have a storage facility. I mean, look at it in
so
there
cool. That's
for the different
gorgeous.
back vintages.
Mhm.
Just, I don't know, it's just gorgeous. I really want to go here. So,
No, we didn't
Thank you.
minimize this. Okay.
yes, please. All right, so 1970s, the Merlot grape arrived in Tuscany in the 70s,
Okay.
right? And the 90s, Vittorio Frescobaldi met Robert Mondavi. He's my man.
Yeah, Mondavi's the one that you first tasted wine with.
That's right. Yes, he was the one. We were on a cruise and there was a wine tasting led by Robert Mondavi himself. I walked in there and he invited me to his table because I was so young and I was interested in
Yeah.
wine.
You were 19?
I was 17. We're in international waters.
I thought it was 18 in international waters.
No, I mean, you can do whatever you want in international waters.
Whatever you want.
Well,
Okay.
maybe a little. So anyway,
I thought it was 18, but okay.
so
They let you
they
sit
let
down
me
at the
in.
table.
I was a mature 17. All right, so I got. So they began a partnership in the 90s. Mondavi came out and he saw the potential for what could be
Mhm.
done. Tuscany grows, in my opinion, wonderful French varietals. I think they do a great job. So they created this venture that was co-owned by both families. And all the way from the 90s, mid 90s, especially with their vintages coming out until 2005. And then at that point, Vittorio's son, Lamberto, took over.
Okay.
And so now it's the
just
Frescobaldi family.
Okay.
Yeah, now it's the Frescobaldi family running it. And interesting, so Lamberto actually added the Brunello.
Okay.
So Brunello is the highest quality Sangiovese. It has to be grown from that specific region within, it's a sub region within Chianti. And so they had these grapes anyway. They had these wonderful Sangiovese grapes that they're putting into the Lucente and the Luce.
Yeah.
And he said, well, let's just go classic and make some actual Brunello. And so they added that onto it, which makes total sense to me.
Absolutely.
But that's kind of the legacy of, Lamberto jumping in and saying, we're not just going to make super Tuscans.
Right.
We're also going to show that we can shine with making classic Tuscan.
So
Brunello.
before that, it was just Super Tuscans?
Yes, before that
Okay.
was just super Tuscan.
Okay. Do you know when he took over?
Yeah, in 2005.
Oh,
Yep.
So when it became not co-owned, that
was when,
was when Lamberto took
That's
it
right.
over. Okay.
Yep.
All right. I wasn't sure if it was first Vittorio and then. It
oh yeah,
passed
that's a
on
good
to-
thing. Yeah, no, it wasn't until Lamberto actually consolidated the control under the Frescobaldi family.
Okay.
So let's see here. Jump over there, and the vineyards are up a little elevation. So we talked about that elevation. They're about 600 to 1200 feet above sea level to get them up in there and get, you have that combination of warm sunny days, cooling off at night to stop the overly fast maturation of those grapes, so you
Sure.
can get some character in there. But you still get plenty of juiciness on this guy. So you can see, I feel like now that you see, I feel like it was kind of like the big reveal, Madani, right?
Yeah.
Like I think you can see that American friendly,
Oh, sure.
but good quality and it's got an Italian style,
Mhm.
but a very American friendly. And how cool must that have been for Madani to go back to Italy
Yeah,
and begin producing?
absolutely.
Obviously not with his own hands at that point, but.
Right.
Hmm.
But I mean, this has got to be about the time that you met him then,
Yes.
about the same time when they started this.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was 1990, the summer.
Mhm.
No, I think it was 89.
So I was gonna say, you weren't 17 in 90, but.
No, it was 89.
Okay,
It was 1989. So. All right.
ready?
Yeah, I think might be one more slide with them.
Okay,
Nope, not.
no, so stop the share mode.
Yep.
All right,
All right, so that's what I got for you guys tonight before we go into the ratings. Any more thoughts? Anything else you tasted or heard that gave you questions or ideas that you'd like to share? I'm happy to hear. Oh, I like that, Robin. Like 100% can see the American friendly palate on this. I agree, right? Like when you hear that Mondavi had a hand, you're like, yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
I get that, right? Because the way they come together is almost with Merlot and that Sangi to tighten it up and give it a little more tannin and herbiness and a little more a bit of that graphite, which I think is coming out more now. It almost comes across like a cab.
yeah.
I think if you're blind tasting it,
Sure,
could you be fooled into thinking this was Cabernet Sauvignon? I think that's a reasonable
Yeah.
thing to say.
absolutely.
Yeah, I was really surprised to see there was a 75-25 split, because I do think that the Sangiovese comes out so predominantly in this. But I wouldn't have guessed it's the other way around, but I probably would have guessed it was closer to like a 60-40 or something else like that, because I think you do get some aspects of Merlot. You're like, oh, okay, yeah, that helps round it out. It helps balance it or something else like that. So I was really surprised that it was so low heavy on this one. I think it's really great. I think it's a great food wine, and I think it's a really interesting sort of like you were saying, like down the middle between old world and new world, where it can kind of do a little bit of both and act on its own. And it's opened up nicely too. I think it leveled out pretty quickly, but like I do think it took a little bit to open up in the glass, and then it's been pretty solid ever since then.
Right. Yeah, I like that call. I'd say 20 minutes, 25 minutes in,
Exactly what I said.
you're where you want to be.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think ours was a little wound up when we first started drinking
Yeah.
it, at like 7 minutes.
Mhm.
I still liked it. I like it
Right.
more now.
I think that's a good call. Yeah, it
Yeah.
definitely, it needed a minute and I was running short on time and, but I kind of, but you know,
But you like the evolution.
I love the
anyways.
evolution. I'm glad I tasted it both ways. I like to know it can do that.
Mhm.
So.
And the mason cups, it needed to breathe.
Mhm.
Yeah. Mhm.
All right. Well, let's jump over to the dreaded rating page.
Okay. Why is it dreaded?
Well, I'm just talking about because we go the whole discussion every week, like
Mhm.
at this point, I'm afraid is getting monotonous. But for anyone who's tuned in for the first time, I wanted to make sure I cover the whole thing about ratings. All right. So ratings, they're a combination of some subjectiveness,
Mhm.
some legitimate, factual basis.
Does it taste like what it's supposed to taste like?
Right. Does it have any actual flaws, right?
Mhm.
So that's something that's not subjective.
Does it have
That's
complexity?
empirical. Does it have complexity? Is it just linear, for example? Does it just taste like cherry and nothing else?
Right.
Or is it got its discussion? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
does it cause a discussion and get a story going in your mind, even without me giving all of my details of what's going on here? I'm getting some herbs, I'm getting some
Right.
earthiness, I've got some nice fruit. There are multiple fruits. It smells like this, maybe some, like we talked about, floral notes on the nose, maybe not as much floral on the palate. So there's a difference, but that's fun, right? That kind of a thing. So does it get a conversation?
You said, I'm trying to remember back, you said that that's more of an old world thing, right? When the nose doesn't match the taste.
That is true.
Okay.
So it is more common with old world wines where you can have a bigger divergence between
Okay.
what you smell and what you taste.
Okay.
So anyway, so that mind, then the other thing is the realities of what they do in the rating system, right? Realities are, we're talking about a basically 50 to 100 point rating system that basically almost everything clusters around 90. Right.
And again, that is not, there are a lot of things that influence that. You're not every wine gets rated.
Right.
You're only submitting it if you think you've produced a good wine, because you're paying for it to be rated.
Right.
Also, so.
Yeah, that's true. So the, kind of a casual table wine or, even not so casual mass produced stuff, they're not putting that up for ratings,
Right.
So maybe you would have a lot more bottles in the market if they all were required to be rated, right? That would be in the 75 to 85 range. But instead, you're right, because only the people that pay for it do it, you end up getting this cluster because they know they've got good juice, right? For the most part. And so you end up getting a cluster around 90. But don't let that fool you that like 90 is still supposed to be an outstanding wine. Right. But did you enjoy it? Was it something that you thought A was good for you, or B, was it good for the area? Those are like extra bonus points.
I mean, I know that there have been things that I've rated in the past as an 88 that I legitimately thought was a very good wine. I enjoyed drinking it.
Right.
It just, if I'm getting up into the 99, 94, it's beyond just I enjoy drinking it. So, something there's beyond things.
Right.
But I've probably asked this before, but I don't remember the answer for it. Let's say you think it's a really good wine. You submit it, comes back with an 84.
Right.
Obviously, you're not advertising that, but is the person that you submitted it to, like Wine Spectator or whatever, can they still just be like, no, we're going to publish that?
Yes, they can.
Okay.
Yep. It's already a done deal.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, because otherwise I don't think you'd ever see those, and I do see them.
You do see them. Okay. All right. Interesting.
Mhm.
Okay. So.
All right, so let's see.
Share.
What do you guys think? Did you find it to be a very good wine, a good wine, an outstanding wine? Yeah, this is something I want to revisit. I like this guy. that's a good wine, you know,
Mhm.
so,
Mhm.
so where are we?
Okay, so we have 92, 93. Chris and Robin opened up nicely, goes well with food, really good all around, crowd pleasing, but also has some depth.
I like that combo.
Um,
That's good.
And then Laura, John and Brenda, all three of them, 90.
Okay,
Let's see, Bubbles and Kiwi, 86 when it started. I'm thinking 89, 90. We did have it with food,
Mhm.
but I also had the other night with nothing and really enjoyed it. But I made sure it was open before I tried it. Okay, yeah.
Mhm.
Then 92, 93 from the Hogsets,
nice.
Paul 89, Linda 90,
Okay.
and then Linda Reinhardt 92 for me.
Mhm.
And then the Mason Cups 89.
Okay,
For me, it's a 92, 93.
Mhm.
I really like this one.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a really nice one. I'm glad you liked it. I think overall, and that's what we see on, on the ratings there, you know,
Mhm.
there's 92, 93s,
Yeah.
on what they're getting.
And Justin has a 90, so they're
Okay.
split.
That's right.
They average
right.
an 89.5. Yeah.
So, yeah, it's nice. I love it's almost like, an American bonus on this guy. Like, there's a point for the Americans kind of thing. It does have a beautiful nose. It's got qualities going on. It's got me talking about it. So that's to me, that's an easy 90 plus pointer, right?
Okay.
If I would put a range on there,
Right.
which a lot of the guys do, when they're doing like barrel tasting, they're
Mhm.
like they would call it like it's a 90 plus, you're right. And we can
Okay.
talk about where I want to hit, but
Right.
what I think is not important. But I can see the 90 plus range, considering what other wines are that get 90s.
Mhm.
And then what this wine is compared to other Super Tuscans I've had and the price point altogether, that guy 90 plus. Yeah. That's me. So. All right.
All right. Any last questions, comments?
We're going to thank our sources and then we'll talk about next week's wine.
I was just giving them a moment.
Yeah. No, I was just saying what we're gonna do
Okay.
next.
All right. I will share and
All
our
right.
sources.
Our sources. Thank you very much to Wine Folly. Always buy the book, watch their videos on YouTube. Anything, if you guys want to do anything else with just learning about wines, in addition to me and my melodious voice, Wine Folly is amazing. They're fantastic. 750.com, Wikipedia, Mecrios, that was for the barrels.
The barrels
Yeah.
and the
The
Barrique.
Barrique. Yep. And then Tenuta Luce. So next week, we are going to be drinking all right, so we're going to say arrivederci to the old world and hola to Chile. Right?
I'm just looking at that wine rating of, oh, okay, wait, top 100. I jumped down there. I was like, okay,
Right.
yeah, but.
So, so our good old friend, Mr. Cabernet Sauvignon,
Mhm.
but from Chile,
Okay,
right?
we haven't been in South America in a little while.
It's been a hot minute. Well,
Yeah.
because it's so easy to hang down in Argentina,
Yeah,
right?
yes.
So, in Chile, best known for Carmenere, but they are really two things, really doing well with cab and such, obviously. But also they're really upping their game, in my opinion, and we're going to be seeing more and more and more from Chile,
Okay,
over the years. But, so anyway, the De Martino, solid 90 plus scores, but also number 66 in the Wine Spectator Top 100. I scored that exact vintage.
okay.
Right, so we're
Yeah.
drinking the vintage that
That's
got
awesome.
that rating. I got the last couple of cases in the state. So you're welcome. So food pairings: Chilean beef and corn casserole, picante de conejo, which is a rabbit dish,
Okay.
and eggplant shepherd's pie. Thought I got kind of creative.
You did get very creative with that. I'm wondering what you're making out of that.
probably the eggplant shepherd's pie. You're not gonna let me make rabbit.
Nope. Okay, you can try around.
I hear guinea pig is good too. All right, so thank you so much, guys. We'll toast and then we can talk about guinea pigs off air.
No.
So thank you for joining us tonight and for everyone that joined us last night for that wine tasting. It was
Yes.
so much
It
fun.
was fun.
All right, here's to you guys.
Cheers, everyone.